And just like that, you're back once again on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. So many little breaks in between, but don't worry. It's because we want to prepare you for some big news coming your way.
Yeah.
And that's entertainment news. We catch up with our favorite celebs, both good news and bad news. It all kind of balances out at the end of the day. Now we get started off with Payne. One Direction. We of course lost.
Questions.
Yes, we lost somebody so great not too long ago. The death of One Direction star Payne, that I think came as a surprise to so many people. It was so unexpected while he was out on his travels, and his girlfriend Kate Cassidy has finally said something about it, and she's opened up about plans that they actually were supposed to get married before he passed away, which really just gives me goosebumps to think about, because imagine those conversations leading up to that moment. And then all of a sudden, it's no longer. Like, where do you
just that thread is cut. Absolutely
completely, no
heartbreaking.
preparation.
Yeah.
It's so devastating.
Excuse my naivety, but what happened?
So there's a lot
Do
of
we
questions.
know? Yeah.
There's a lot of questions around it.
Because that's what I'm seeing online as well, and there's a lot of stuff being like mishauled.
The problem is I haven't been able to find one bona fide article about it.
Same.
It's just clickbait at the moment. So they're using his headline and merging it with so many stories in an AI-fueled kind of internet takeover. Unfortunately, it's almost impossible to know where to go to find out what that source information is. But how do you know when it comes to mental health, when it comes to the use of drugs in this space, and clearly that was a factor, so many of those questions will stay unanswered because you don't know. There's
and
no
also
way you
them
can go
trying to protect his image, probably, because regardless of what happened, they have to curate and create a story to say that this person, One Direction, was such a huge fan favorite the world over. It has to be a story that's kind of palatable to the masses. So we'll have to see as time does unfold how it goes. But she did share a heartbreaking and warming tribute, just basically saying that my heart is shattered in a way that I can't even put into words. And I personally can't even imagine what that pain must feel like.
I think that's what everyone's just dealing with right now is so many questions, like G-Man said, but at the same time, you have these questions when you're trying to deal with something that just doesn't make sense. How? Why? It's something so big gets taken away from you. The impact that this had on so many people's lives, and then suddenly it's gone. That's a difficult thing to deal with.
Well, if we can take anything out of this space, the fact that mental health knows no boundaries, whether it's situational, whether there are factors impacting that. You're looking at a young guy with the world at his feet, absolutely amazing young human being with so much talent and so much bank behind him to do whatever he wanted to do, and that wasn't enough. So please just think on that for a moment.
And just the responsibility of being a public figure and having that weight on you. Also leading up to his death, there wasn't the greatest coverage of him social media-wise. So not to say that it contributed to his death, but just to bear that in mind, what Ray said.
Tread lightly.
Now, speaking about, I don't know if you guys knew this, but globally, they put out a fact in 2022 that men's suicides is actually 4 times as many as women, which is a fact that, like, I can't even wrap my head around. But when it comes to mental health and it comes to men, that conversation doesn't always come together. So the next story is all about comedian Pete Davidson. Now, we recently saw that he was out of the public eye for a bit. He spent a couple of months really seeking good mental health in the hospital. He checked himself back in July, and he's really just been putting the work in.
He was so hot. He was hot property. And you think that that's a good thing when you're on everyone's lips, when you're on everyone's timelines, when you're in every news story. But maybe that comes with a kind of pressure. I was watching Taylor Swift's documentary yesterday, and you think, how can you be go from being the most loved to literally the most hated person on the planet overnight? And what that must do personally. So kudos to Pete, man, for taking himself out of the fray.
It really is something that's starting to become so more pertinent right now, is that a lot of the real full-fledged like celebs that are resonating with the people globally are the ones that make themselves so raw. And it's such a catch-22 because they're there for the highs and the lows, but when it gets a bit too much, then suddenly they're all on their own. And they realize that, unfortunately, and it's something that they have to deal with. And it's such a catch-22. You have this incredible support, this amazing community online, but at the end of the day, you still you.
You go through it all. You go to sleep in your body.
With your mind. I can't believe that. When days, what do they say? When days are dark, friends are few. And we hope that's not the case for this last story that we'll get into, all about Mama Joy, but not necessarily her. It is about our head boy and head girl. Many people were left with their jaws on the floor. I mean, I'm still picking it up after a recent announcement by Rachel and also Sia Khaleesi saying that they're actually going to, separate ways after a decade together. Of course, they share children, so they said it's going to be amicable and they're going to remain in each other's lives. But then we know superfan Mama Joy that holds the South African flag so high. She went onto X, formerly known as Twitter, and she just expressed her shock about it. And she said that she was invited to the Sia Foundation launch out in Paris during the World Cup when they were there. And she basically said she didn't see any signs of divorce around that time. Now, people weren't happy.
I saw she got some heat for
Because they were saying,
that.
why are you centering yourself in something that is so devastating? It's not about you. I get both sides. She was trying to relate in a way. She was trying to weigh in on a situation.
Don't hate the player. Don't hate the player. Hate the game, man. I mean, everyone online falls victim to that, trying to get a little bit of hype, trying to plug into a little bit of hype, be connected to something that's really happening. But the bottom line is it kind of connects to all of us. And I think those of us that do know them personally, or anyone in the country feels that you know them personally, because just like you pointed out, they've made themselves vulnerable, raw. They've been with us. They've gone through all of these things, and we've been kind of there by their side. So I think more often than not, we identify a bit of ourselves in them. And I think that's what's just broken my heart, is I'm just looking at two people having to deal with a very complex situation right now.
With the world watching.
The whole country's
The
like
country
on their shoulders.
sitting there going, what is going to happen? If they're falling apart, does that mean we're falling apart? But we'll see how it goes. And of course, we wish the Carissa family all the best.
We love you.
We love you so much. And we hope that that love will carry you through this very challenging period. Well, that's where we leave your entertainment news. We'll catch up again on Wednesday with hopefully better news this time around. But we'll see how that goes.